Just relax and just relax. Notice the sense of being. Don't worry about your posture. Don't worry about if you're doing it right. You can't do it wrong. You're just sitting. Just sitting. Noticing that you can notice. How is it that you can hear this voice? What allows you to do that? What allows the voice to be? What is it that without it, none of this could be? Okay, everybody, thank you so much. So let me first check to see if anybody has a question or something they want to make open up with as an opening topic, or if you have any answers, you can share those. Anybody got anything? If you don't, I do. Okay. So, and is my volume right? Can you hear me okay? Okay, good. So, we talk about the sense of being. We talk about God, awakeness, oneness, noneness, spirit. Today, I don't want to use any of those terms, but I do want to talk about what we really are. So another term that we don't use, because we can't see the forest for the trees, is that what we really are is life itself. I mean, the life, that which gives life. We are the single, but that makes it sound like there's, to say the single, it automatically brings up the idea of a double or another or something like that. But we are the singular life force, the very life itself. The reason we can be here to talk and be with each other is because we are alive, so to speak. But we don't have to dance around it. We can use that term and not fully believe it. But we call these things alive. We call things that have stopped moving or animals that have stopped moving, plants that have begun to decay or whatever. We call those things dead. But as long as the part of the plant or animal is still here, it's not really dead. It's just in metamorphosis from form to the formlessness. We are this formless life force. There is no way to find it. There is no way to hook up to it. There is no way to know it. You can know that you are it, but it remains a mystery. But when we say we are it, let's not go to the mystery for a minute. It remains a mystery because we don't know what the life force is exactly. But we are the life that is. We are the life that inhabits everyone in the world, and every being in the world, and the world itself. If it is known, if it can be known, it can only be known because of you, because of the life force. It's you, and by extension, it's me. And when you begin to, if you can grab hold of this, that there's no such thing as afterlife. There's only life. There may be other forms that we don't understand, or other Who knows? We don't know. We just don't know. But there's no such thing as the death of you. You can't die. These forms all die. They come, they go, but you never come. You never go. You're always here. Look for that which does not come. What does not, which does not come and go. What does not come and go? Consciousness. Okay. But we think consciousness is something for us to discover, for us to understand, for us to notice or feel or whatever. And it's us. It's this life. It's not some other life. It's not some other place. There is no other place. There is no place, period. There is the discovery of this, whatever, so we can call this a place, but I don't even know what that means. When there is only life. And there we see what we call goodness in it, and we see what we call badness in it. And certainly we don't want to pretend that there's no such thing or any need for skillfulness on our part to live in harmony with ourselves. It's the singular self. And it's this untouchable, unimaginable, really, because the imagination can't occur in the absence of you. There's no imagination in the absence of you. There's no joy, there's no fear, there's no anything in the absence of you. But in the firm knowledge in the heart that we are life itself. And this has come over me in a way that I can't, I'm trying to share it. And when we see other people having different religious experiences or different mystical experiences or whatever, it's life in all its variations. It's just life in all its variations. There's no such thing really as I've got it right and that guy's got it wrong. It's just, there's no guy, there's no woman, there's just life itself. And these are the beings of life. We occur within this life. And this life is the love that allows for everything to be. It's pure allowance. It's wide open love. It's love without judgment or boundary. It's love without anything but the love of through the language of living. This living, as we call it, this is just this conscious living. We're consciously alive, but there's only alive. We're consciously alive. Rocks are aliveness anyway, but they may not be conscious in our understanding, but they're not other than it, because there isn't anything other than it, and the it is life. And when we talk about eternal life, this is the eternal life. There is there's reincarnation in every moment, in the sense that life is incarnating itself as this and that. But in truth, there is no this and that. There's just this appearance, that appearance. And this doesn't make it really empty in the cold sort of way. It means you just can't put your finger on it. Because what would put the finger on it is life itself. And how the fingers move is life itself. Life cannot understand itself. There's nothing to understand. It's a wrong topic. I mean, it's a wrong word. It's a wrong idea. there's when we talk about this moment, we're just talking about life doing the only thing that it can do, which is to live. But we know, other people know that they are alive. We can know that we are life itself. We are the very life that they believe that they are living. They can't live it without this singularity that we are. This beyond imagination. Again, imagination can only occur because of life. What we call bad can only happen because of life, but it's still, whether it's judged good or bad doesn't affect the fact that it's still life. And what's it doing? It's lifing. It's really and truly lifing. And this is actively lifing. And this is not actively lifing, but it's still lifing. In other words, it still is it. It is still, this is still within the full embrace of God, or whatever we want to call it, of life. Life's embracing everything because life is everything. And we can stop seeking, really and truly, we can just stop seeking. Where would we seek for life? Where would we go to look for the foundation of life? It's here. It's not in these bodies exclusively, but life is also within these bodies. And these forms, it's a form of life. We talk about life forms. Well, all of these things are life forms. Everything is a life form. If it's a form, it's a life form. Some of them are active and some of them are not. Some of them are passive, but they're all life forms. The water that I can't live without is a life form. The pain that I feel in my shoulder today that's just life letting me know, letting life itself know that there's life here. There's active life here, not passive. There will be passive life here when this thing dies, when it quits breathing, when it quits thinking, when it quits imagining, when it quits believing that it's doing. Life's doing all of it. And what is it doing? It's doing itself. Life is lifing. It has no other job. It's beyond us to figure out what the point of this is. This is the point. Life itself is the point of life, lifing. Actively, passively, it makes no difference. It's still life. There's nothing outside of life. There are transitions within this life, certainly. You can watch an eagle with a rabbit, and it's a rabbit becoming eagle. It's a transition, but it's not a death. It's life consuming itself because it has no other choice. We have to consume ourselves. And really, it's ourself. We have to consume ourselves. There's absolutely nothing wrong because there's actually no measuring stick. This is a grain of salt trying to figure out, is there really an ocean? trying to figure out what the ocean means, what it's all about. This is what it's all about. This is what it's all about right here. What you don't know doesn't exist until you know it. There's no such thing as before life, after life. There's just lifing. These are transition points for what? For active beings, for active life forms. And all of the saints and sages that we know throughout history. Pick your favorite, but these beings, they're not telling us about life. It's life showing itself to itself in a particular manner. And a murderer is doing exactly the same thing. It's not doing that. There's no murderer. There's no one with the murderous mind. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to run from somebody who comes at me with a knife. But that's just the unit's response. The unit believes itself to be something within life, but it's not. Life itself. This life. Life need not wait for life to show up. And life will never be able to grasp itself. It just can't. It's not meant to. It's not made to. We think that these humans should know it. That's because we mistake life as being this human. And we can sense that there is something here that beyond a brain that is just vast beyond the word. There's no word of it. We know about this. We can feel it. That sense of being, that really is, that's life itself. That's life itself noticing itself. It's always here. If there's no sense of being, there's no life. Because there can't be a sense of being. I mean, in the absence of a sense of being, there can't be lifing. There has to be lifing acting out. Life acting out. And what's it acting out of? A sense of being. So it is a total mystery if you're actually trying to find out about this. But we don't need to find out about this. There's no we and the singular us, so to speak. Needs to just come to see. There's this one thing. It's not even one thing. It's beyond one thing. It's beyond thingness. It's just not even in thingness. Thingness is within it. There's no thingness without life. And there is no such thing as without life. Think about it. You get lost in the stars. It's a sense of being the stars. Because you are the stars. These things here are the stardust. But it's stardust living. It's not stardust dusting or merely dusting. And I can't understand all this, so it's not like I'm going to explain this to you. But I hope to hit enough corners that it starts to sink in. Pamela, please.
I'm always amazed how things work with this,
Yeah.
because I've just been reading. It's a fairly short book and really inexpensive, $5.99 ebook on Amazon. But it's the current, just dumbed down in the sense that people who aren't physicists can understand it. Where quantum physics actually has been able to undo what Newtonian physics did with regard to what happens when the body dies. Because with quantum physics, apparently it's at a point of saying this is consciousness and energy. That's all this is.
And consciousness is not other than energy.
So, yeah, he separated it into two things. I am not.
That's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
Right. I am in no way able to discuss this with intelligence.
No, me either. That's the funny thing. It's great. We're just going to knock it around.
But he gave a wonderful analogy, or at least it was an analogy that I kind of put things in a perspective that I could understand about what this is. He said, imagine that you're a playwright and the play you've written is on the stage, you're out in the audience, you are really interested in the play because you wrote it. So lights dim, and there's your character, and he's drinking his espresso and saying how good it is, and looking out the window and noticing the scenery, and it's time to go to work. So he gets himself up to go out the door, and that's the end of the scene, and the lights come up. But for a moment, you were so into that story that you were tasting the espresso and smelling the smells and so on. And that in this life, our brain basically traps us into watching the play, the stage. And when the lights go out, as with death or whatever, I guess, or the lights come back up, when the play is over and the lights come up, then awareness of what you've been along and what this really is apparently is able to be there, because the narrow perspective of the brain that's necessary to have the sensual experiences and experience a material world is no longer in the way.
Perfect.
So
there's the stage is untouched. The theater is just the same. It's untouched. Nothing's ever happened.
Yeah, nothing was ever really there, but it's all the projection. And I guess with physics, I mean, they have shown that state where the possibility of something being multiple different things, it's not until it's observed that it stabilizes. And again, I am really dumb on this.
You're doing a good job. You're fine.
I have no idea how this could be, but that's apparently what they're saying is. And that's where one of the things he hypothesizes or just puts out there is then that the observing consciousness is then an ongoing creation, ongoing process of what is apparently real and out there. If that makes any sense. I kind of get it when I read it. I get this sense of yes, but I'm not quite sure what I'm
It's
saying
not unlike
yes to.
spirituality in that sense, that as long as I'm right there.
Well, yeah, I mean, at least he does documentation, and
Yeah.
He's in himself an investigative type reporter
Mhm.
person who wants to know for himself,
Yeah.
but also knows how to access sources that are as trustworthy as can be, which is to say, it's still human beings hypothesizing and experimenting with all of this. So,
Yes. It's
as we said, we can't really know, hard and fast it's true, but at least it's pointing in a direction that
there's no we to
yeah, well,
hard and fast to understand something else
right,
hard and fast. There's just
yeah, it's
whatever's going on.
consciousness figuring itself out, I suppose,
There's a
or directing the play. Who knows?
in the early days of quantum physics, they came up with a mind experiment, and it was one of them was named Schrodinger, and
Yeah, Schrodinger's box.
Schrodinger's box. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that poor kitty.
yeah, right. There was Schrodinger had a cat in a box, and the idea was it alive, or was the question was it is it alive or is it dead? And until you open the box, it's both.
Mm-hmm.
When you open it and it's seen, now it's stable. It's either alive or it's dead. But until that, the possibilities exist. And that's what quantum physics is really all about. It's about the possibilities and I guess probabilities, but the possibilities I'm more clear on than the probabilities. The when we say that there's just one thing going on, it's a way to box this.
Mm-hmm.
That's the box.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's because it's a way to see something. And you don't understand it so much as you feel it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this life without that thing, that answer at the end, that's what non-duality it is. It just goes further and further, but it never goes. There's never an end to it.
Mm-hmm.
There's never a solution. Well, we don't need a solution to life. All we need is life, and all we are is life. All that can be is life. And who can there's no getting your head around that. There's just feeling it and then acknowledging it, accepting it. We can acknowledge it, then accept it, perhaps. We get accept it, then we may be able to begin to live it. And when we begin to live it, then we really confirm it. And we confirm it again, we confirm it when we feel it, when we know it. But we don't, it's not like what you know. It's just knowing.
Yeah.
And what that really is, that's life itself. That's the mystery itself, is what is this knowing? I mean, who's asking, right? It's just
Yeah.
yeah.
He ties this in with things like the what ESP kinds of experiments and things like that. And the one that fascinated me was where they used, I guess, a computer to generate random on-off kinds of, just a two choices. It's either this or that sort of thing.
The binary system. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they had lots of people, not just people who thought they had ESP, but without anybody having seen the tape that was produced, they had these people, predict what it was going to be. And the interesting thing, I'm trying to remember, they did it in so many different ways, so I'm probably conflating and confusing, but it turns out that there was a slightly greater than chance, 55% getting it right.
Yeah.
Without, which, sounds like next to nothing, but apparently is really a big deal in statistics, that 5%. But the other thing that was really fascinating was they had people predict it before before it had actually been done. And then they had it done, but nobody had seen it. And they had people predict it. But somehow, without anybody having seen it, they knew what it had been.
Mm-hmm.
And what it became after people predicted changed what it had been.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is like,
yeah, this is the kind of insanity that we deal with.
Right.
You can't put it together. It's just like this non-duality. How does this work? Can you nail this down for me? No.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot more going on.
That's it. We're just touching the surface, and we're trying to map the sea.
Mm-hmm. Right. Standing on the shore, looking out.
Standing on the shore. It's just not going to happen. So it's this, and the beauty of this kind of thing that you're talking about is that it blows open the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the world of infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't own that.
Mm-hmm.
You can't know. You can only know of these infinite possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I've had an eye on, let me put it that way. I've not been studying in this sense of traditional studying, but I've had my eye on physics,
Mm-hmm.
and the new physics, really, for more than 20 years, ever since I got clear enough to where I could read the Tao of physics.
Mm-hmm.
It's and the Dancing Wu Li Masters and some books along that line. And what they did, they just opened the door to possibilities. And for some reason, possibilities scare humans. Possibilities. We want to know. We want something concrete. But that's because we want there to be something concrete here that can know something else concrete. There's nothing concrete here. There's no one, there's no one who could ever say, I'm enlightened, right? It's a declaration that you're not. We don't know exactly what it is, but we can tell that you don't know it by quite a mile if you're enlightened. It's A lot of people call me and like, what part? You know what I mean? Where does it live? Betsy hadn't found it.
Well, your ears have kind of a special glow.
Yeah, that's right. Long ears like the Asians do. Yeah. And, it's and wisdom. There's relative wisdom in knowing. We build up a bank of knowledge, and and that's useful in everyday life, no question about it. But what we're really talking about is the unknowing. And this really got sunk home to me about 15 years ago, about the time that the living method began to show itself. And the book of Unknowing wrote itself, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
and I was the typist. I swear to God, typist on that book. I could not type fast enough. The words were coming too fast. I just was, and it was true that I was typing a typical session. What was going on in a typical session? Well, I went into a session. I had no idea what was going on, and I didn't have any confidence. I mean, I had began to develop a sort of confidence that somebody would wake up, but I never knew within the cycle of it where they were going to wake up. I just knew I had these certain things. And then when I first started, it was like there would be a point, and I wouldn't even recognize it until it was over. There would be a point in every session where I would ask a question of the person. And when I did, they would wake up. And I never saw it coming. And it wouldn't be anything that would wake the next person up necessarily, right? It just wasn't the thing. It was the whole. So now we begin to really feel this quantum idea that it's an entire field. Yeah. And that the living, and I've always known that, the living method, it's a method, but it's not a method of enlightenment. I don't know what the method is. I don't know what it means by that. It is I know that when you put enough things together that you get a particular reaction. This is the only thing I can really, when I look at it, it's not because I do this or this or this. It's because there is a jumble that can be instantly organized in a person's head, but I'm not doing the organizing. I'm just throwing a jumble out. Yeah. So it's not in the words, it's and it's not in some deep-seated enlightened thing in my chest or whatever. It's the field. It is the field of all of it. And you can see the light. I don't know how else to put it. You can see the light sometimes. And were we all in Song Sunday when I with that guy? I mean, what did that take? 15, 20 minutes? I mean, it was just so fast. This is somebody, I mean, people are searching for decades. And this guy gets in the field, which this is a part of the field. It's not my field. I am part of that field. But he gets within the field, as if there's an I here. But what feels like there's an I is part of that field. And that happens.
Mhm.
There's no explaining it.
What I've noticed is for myself, and what I've noticed through satsang and watching is it's like when the mind, the personal mind, is ready to lay down and give up the fight.
That's it.
Because everything that you're saying, if the mind doesn't fight it at each step,
That's it.
it just 1, 2, 3, and then it's, well, yes, of course. How
Yes,
did
of
I miss
course.
it?
It's absolutely unmissable. Goes from it is, and that's what I like to say is that it's unknowable until it's unmissable.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And
That's on Sunday. I'm just, excuse me.
yes, I was. Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, you were. I was asking John.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Animals there. Go back and look at the last 30 minutes of that thing. It'll be good for you. It's good for anybody. I watched it and I loved it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know that was the experience when I was reading the Looking Glass. You know, the mind got caught immediately in the humor, and the fact that you were willing to present it in a way that was non-spiritual. There was none of the highfalutin no grand concepts.
Right.
I mean, it was just very, very down to earth, and it actually I could hear the mind going, oh, that's what that word really means. I never got how that could be. How could something be, all knowing? Realize what it was that actually was meaning.
Yeah, right.
And yeah. So yeah, I think at some point, for whatever reason, and that's the unpredictable part, it just seems like the mind is finally willing to play nice and willing to stop looking for faults in the argument, so to speak.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I tell people sometimes. I can't make this happen to you.
Yeah.
Help you if you really want to wake up.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Yeah. There's a way that a person simply has to be willing to suspend all the logical arguments.
Suspend argument. Argument.
Yeah, any kind. Yeah. And just let it be led. The same as a child would with a fairy tale. You don't have to take it. You just let it go. And if you just let it go, then all of a sudden there you are. Yeah. So
yeah.
But it's hard. I think it's really hard for most adults.
Yeah.
I would think to let go, and I don't know why at that point my mind finally gave it up. But
the only way that I have figured out to do it is actually to trick it.
yeah. Well, and that's what you're in Looking Glass. You're actually doing that because it's going along and it's perfectly logical, perfect sense. And then all of a sudden there's something there that if in a different setting, a different situation, I might have argued about it, but somehow in that lead up to it, whatever, it just falls into place.
Instead of being why, there raises why not?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So
the idea that it can't be this is simply because we're looking for something grand. We're not looking for the grand poobah's hat to be a baseball cap, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't either.
we're supposed to be levitating
Yes,
or, you
right.
know,
Yeah.
feeling with our
You're,
hands,
yes,
all of
transparent.
this.
Yeah,
You know.
lots of stuff. And it's more ordinary.
Well, yeah, it's chop wood, carry water, but
Yeah.
it's,
Mhm.
yeah.
It
So,
it is wonderful how we just wonderful how it comes to unwrap itself.
mhm, yeah.
And it will and you know, and it will unwrap itself the way that it needs to be unwrapped for that person. You know, and a Christian will see Jesus, and a Buddhist may see Buddha, or you know, somebody else may see a unicorn. I don't know, right? It's just it's you will find it's never anything that you expect,
Mm,
but it's somehow it's okay. You get it,
mhm.
right? Just okay. And it's, so that you know, it's not like, oh, I wasted my whole life until all my spirituality, years of spirituality until I got to this. No, that's what was required.
Mm.
How do we know that's what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, I hate to be a simpleton, but a lot of this is because we're not being simpletons. We make it so very difficult.
Yeah.
John, come in.
Hey, Fred.
Man, how you doing?
Good, thank you. That was beautiful, Pam.
Yeah,
Just
well,
listening to that. Yeah, yeah. Uh, I don't know what you said. Something, the mind, when the mind finally gives up. Those aren't the words, but uh, I got a little bit of a twist on that. My sister died. My next youngest sister passed away about less than 2 weeks ago, and
sorry, John.
she had Alzheimer's. And we put her in a memory care unit about, geez, only maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and her decline was so rapid. And my other sister sent me a video of her. I mean, she was walking, she recognized everybody, and the next day she really was shuffling with her feet. And I watched this video, and I started grieving because I knew she was going to die very soon. And so a few days after that, I said, well, I'm over that grieving stuff. And then she died, and I was with her a few hours before she died. She was going through that, what's the word for the breathing, the heavy breathing, and she's getting ready to give up the breath. And the next day, I went to the library. I was going to do some inventory work, AA stuff. And I said, I'm just going to write a poem to my sister. And as soon as the pencil touched the paper, I started bawling. And these words started coming out. And the emotions started coming up. And there was so many different emotions just coming through. And I know enough through this process, I guess if I could say it, this is a process that part of the poem was thank you for allowing me to feel these feelings.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and the day after that, I was kind of watching the mind do its thing, and all the little problems that we have with the interpersonal relationships. And I was going, the mind is going to do what it does. So I can't stop it. So what the hell? And so I stepped back and I just started watching the mind do its thing. And I wasn't affected by it. And it was a pretty cool experience. The twist is that something inside, or the delusion, something inside wants to take ownership back, or something like that. Wants to get caught up in the drama. And I don't know if that's mind or if that's part of the mind. And this morning I've been reading Krishnamurti. I got like 5 of his books, and I just love how he explains. Like this morning, I was reading. Is this too noisy for you being outside? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. I
Oh,
can't hear
okay,
anything in
great.
the
There's
background.
motorcycles going by it. And the topic was desire. And I remember years ago when I first had this overwhelming spiritual awakening, I guess. I liked last time I heard you, Fred, you were talking about, I'm just as much a spiritual junkie than as anybody else. And this thing came to me that at the basis of everything is desire. I mean, I wouldn't have this body, I believe, if somewhere in the cosmos there was desire. So whatever our essential nature is, and I don't know where the desire comes from, but with the desire, this mental activity, and Krishnamurti says, and you have to get beyond that. So you have to come to some understanding and actually look at this thing to go beyond it. Now, his words are a heck of a lot better than mine, but the going beyond it, he can't say, and you can't say, Fred, and Pam can't say, or Hannah can't say what it is to go beyond it. But my understanding,
Can't be reported on.
pardon? You
It
can't,
can't be reported on.
yeah. But I am, something in me has this understanding that this mind just goes on. And I really don't have to pay attention to it. And why? I mean, you know, if 24, if I'm thinking for 24 hours, maybe 1 minute of the 24 hours was a necessary thought, you know? So why not give it up?
90+%, they say that 90+% of our thoughts every day are rethoughts. Yeah, or they're reruns. It's just we've thought all this before, but we've just got to think it again.
Think it again. Yeah, right. And when you started speaking this afternoon, Fred, about life,
Yeah.
and it reminded me of a saying that Krishnamurti, I love this little bit, that who you truly are is the pure awareness that illumines consciousness and its infinitesimal content. And I have a question about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we are consciousness,
Try to start that sentence without saying if.
okay,
Because
I would say that we are at our true nature. The best description for me is that we're awareness,
Yeah.
consciousness.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you can separate those two things, but I lose consciousness every night when I put my head on the pillow. So where is consciousness?
John loses consciousness. You're not John.
Ah, that's a good one. Yeah. Wow, I'll have to sit with that one a while, Fred.
Yeah, but that's it. But that's the truth of it. And that's the one of the reasons that I said just try asking that question without starting it with if, is that I get so many if questions. So it's like, prove this to me, and then I might believe that. And it is, we at some point we have to quit trying to distance ourselves from commitment. And we can begin to accept, well, given that there is only consciousness. I mean, is anybody is anybody raised a hand in objection to that? I mean, it's becomes, at some point it becomes obvious. And given that there's just consciousness, How does that, what does this question mean, or in that regard? And that's the way we do it, you just begin to accept it. Because what the way that you have to, as you know, you see it and then you acknowledge it. And that's what and everybody here has seen it and everybody here has acknowledged it. And then we accept it on a 1 to, if we wanted to call it a 1 to 100 levels. Then they're infinite levels of acceptance. What sometimes we call those infinite levels of clarity. But the clarity really is just the further acceptance of what it means for the just to be one thing going on, and even when we know that that's not even quite right, but it's close enough. It's close enough for teaching. So when we begin to take these things as givens, then our mind quits playing with it. Because I don't know, you've been in AA and I was in AA too. And one of the things that I discovered very early on when I was quitting drinking was that I just couldn't toy with the idea. You think, could I take a drink? You think I could take a drink and it'll be okay? Because every time in my life that I had asked that question, the answer became yes. So answering the question was just a foregone conclusion that at some point in there, I was going to say, yes, of course you could, and get drunk. So I quit playing with it. And that's what we're doing with well, if we're this, if we're that, and I let, and I was very unskillful in a meeting not that long ago, where and I think I've done this twice, but it's been where you've, like in a skillful means or something, where I've taken people at great lengths and we have seen the truth, and now we're in clarity sessions and we're whatever, and have somebody say, well, if there's really just one thing going on or whatever, and it just blew me up, because it was like, what do you mean if? I mean, we're not at the if stage. This meeting is for those who believe, they just haven't had the experience or whatever. And so you're still not committed. That's what you're saying. I'm coming to this thing and maybe he can do this to me, but I kind of doubt it. But if what he says is true, maybe it'll happen.
Well, that goes along with the word commit. And for the last year, I've been, well, why is this awakening a part-time basis with me? Why, how come it's not 24/7? How come, and I think you just gave me the answer there. It's the commitment and the acceptance. And it doesn't have to be this great big, oh my God, I'm signing a contract, right? It's just something inside.
Just drop the argument.
That's what Pam said.
Yeah, you drop the argument, and that doesn't necessarily make any noise or make a splash or anything like that. There's just a vacuum where there was argument. And within that emptiness, that's where the truth rises, because you begin to see the obvious. Because there could not be anything more obvious than that this is it, right? It's that the one thing going on. I mean, can you find anything else? I mean, can you see anything? Can you ever heard of anything? Well, the other planets, that's all within this, isn't it? And it's dropping that tease. And I teased myself like that for years and years. And when I quit teasing myself, I quit drinking. And the way that I did that, and there might be some way that you can work that with this. I hadn't thought about it, but the way that I did it back then, and because I think it was the most important thing in getting me in sobriety, really, other than getting a little bit humble and honest, was I always said it like this. So I am an alcoholic. And what I mean by that is that once I start to drink, I cannot control quantity, duration, or outcome. This body doesn't process alcohol the way that a normal person's body processes alcohol. It makes me flipping insane. And the first symptom of that insanity will be that I'm not insane, right? That this is, and as long as I go with the idea that I can somehow, some way, someday drink like a gentleman. And I have to understand that my body is, and the great thing about recognizing that it was my body does not process alcohol the way that a normal person's do, is that took out all away from the psychology. That I'm just, I just need to think a little. I just need to drink less. And obviously, how much less? Well, none. But the recognizing, calling it the body was an out, because that's what I used to say. I have this is, I didn't say I have. I said, this is an alcoholic body, and it does not process alcohol the way that normal people's do. And that means that no new idea, no something I see in the newspaper, that's or something I see on TV that says, they say red wine is fine for us. Yeah, okay. Well, great. If it's good for me, I'm gonna drink a gallon of it. And so that was surrender. I had surrendered, I could surrender all, I just never fought with those objections again. I just was, they'd start to come at, that's insane. That's insane. Because you ever seen the Little Red Book? Yeah. In the Little Red Book, in the introduction, it said the first symptom of alcoholism is insanity. And when I read that, that changed my whole life. I realized, God Almighty. So I'm sitting here. I have an alcoholic body, and I have a mind that tells me I don't. And I'm stuck with this insanity. I'm going to die an alcoholic death if I don't get this thing. And that.
And I have a mind that says I am not awake.
But right, the mind, and because the mind is right, you're not.
Oh, John is not. That's true.
John is not, right. There's no such thing. Fred is not awake. There's no awakened Fred. There never has been. Never will be.
That clears something up with this. My first awakening. Well, it happened a few times where I lost consciousness, and when my consciousness returned and I opened my eyes, I couldn't label. I had no. John was gone. It was completely gone, like he had never existed.
Mm-hmm.
And it took about a half an hour to say, oh, this is a hand, and the labels came back.
Get back into the body.
Yes. So awakeness may be connected to the body, but the awakeness is not the body.
Well, but there is no body.
Yes, right. Yes, and that's clear from opening my eyes and not knowing anything, and it's all made up. It's all
made up.
It's all education.
So what was there? Something you said that sparked a mind, a thought, whatever. It'll come back if it needs to. But it is that my calling that body like that. That was the surrender. And that recognizing that the first symptom was insanity. That was also surrender, but I didn't see it that way. But it was surrender to it was. In other words, I can't fight this mind. I just have to ignore it. I just get to cut it off, and I have to just start, judging it. Well, I don't know. Maybe I could take a drink. Maybe not. Or whatever it is.
Isn't that the same thing as, well, maybe I can start thinking again, or
That's
maybe
it.
I can
Maybe I
identify
can
with
take a think. That's what I
yeah, maybe I can identify with this thought. Maybe I can,
yeah,
maybe I can win.
I'll show them.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's been great, Fred. Thanks for chatting.
So yeah, yeah. The so um it's that like a thought came again and it went again. Hmm. Oh, so when people ask me, because I used to get this question, well, I still get it from and they start out with if. Well, if there's only oneness, says oneness. But if there's only oneness, how come I can't see what everybody's doing? I can only see, and I would use that example. I say, okay, yeah, like if you were oneness, I mean, you would think that you'd be able to see the inside of this room, wouldn't you? Yeah, and I'd be able to see the inside of your room and all that, right? Yeah, well, I can see the inside of your room, and you can see the inside of mine. I'm just not using that body to look at the inside of this room. I'm using this body because I'm not a body. I'm the animating presence in both bodies. And when you just rip it away from the idea that they're coming from a body stance, how come I can only see this situation and I can only see this room and I can't see all the rooms, or I can't see what my dog is doing? And I'll say, yes, you can see it very clearly. You're losing the dog's eyes. And so and that takes you away from trying to get this thing to be magical, because right, I mean, this thing it's a conscious object, but it's not uh but there's nobody here that gets conscious or goes unconscious. It's the sense of individuality comes and goes, but individuality never comes. So and it never goes. It's just, but that's the sense that I am a John that comes and goes. There's the sense that I'm a John, and when you go back to, well, if I'm really not a John, why don't stop that? Stop that. Well, I'm not a John. I've seen that. So why can't go at it from that direction? Come at it, because this is the backwards teaching. When you look at all this stuff, come from the standpoint of being God, of being awakeness itself, because that's what you are. So when you start talking from the idea if you adopt awakeness's position, everything will change. And when do you adopt that? You adopt it right now. And in the seeing that there's only one thing, then I realize that that it looks like there's four things here, but there aren't. There's one thing showing up four different ways, and that one thing is me. And the reason I can't see what's going around in John's yard is because this unit is limited, but I am not. And I can see that yard perfectly well. I take care of it. I mow the lawn, I did the snipping or whatever it is. So I know that yard very well. Thank you. But there's no reason to tie Fred up with the details of John's yard, right? Of that unit's yard. This unit's job is to handle this square or this cube, if you will. And Byron Katie likes to say that there's, your business, my business, and God's business. And when I take my nose out of God's business and your business, and I just put my focus on my business, then everything will immediately get much, much clearer and better. Just that simple. So take the leap. and it's not really a leap of faith, but if it needs to be a leap of faith, let it be a leap of faith. Who said that there's anything wrong with faith? Just, if you were around this enough, then you yourself are left in wonderment. Are they really bullshitting me, or am I really missing this thing? Right? Is there something to this, or am I missing it, or are they crazy, or whatever? What's going on? And when we come from the other side and say, what if all these sages throughout history and all these people that I'm mixed up with now, everything, what if they're telling me the truth? What motivation would a sage have to tell me a lie about life itself, about truth? Well, I'm so suspicious because I don't want to be fooled. I don't want to be fooled. Ego does not want to be fooled. It does not want to be found to be the fool. It does not want to stand out as the idiot who bit into the false thing, because that would be humiliation. And ego would rather have death than humiliation. So it is being willing to throw your hat in the ring and say, yeah, you know what? They're right. I know they're right. I don't know why I keep thinking otherwise. Well, it must be, but it must be because I can't not. I can't not. I'm thinking the way I think because that's the only way that I can think, as long as I'm accepting that I'm a John and not accepting the truth, which is, John, you're not that body. Okay, which body am I? Right? It's, you're the animating presence. Which animating presence is that? Can you show it to me? I mean, goddamn, you're it. I mean, excuse me. And so the answer is no, I can't show it to you.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Anna, you got anything you could add to this?
Um, um, I'm just absorbing it all in. I think it's one of the clearest talks I've ever heard you give, actually.
Yeah, I think it's one of the clearest I ever gave.
Yeah, I think it really is.
Yeah.
My focus is very.
That's fine. And I just don't want to ignore you.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's, like I said, the clearest I've really heard you speak. It's, yeah.
That's when it felt to me that what I was seeing in the living room was the clearest that I had ever understood things, if you will, whatever that means. Because I still didn't understand it. I couldn't, but I could see things with less Fredism in it, less Fred in it than any other time that I could recall. It was like the time that when I actually wrote The Looking Glass, because that was an intentional thing. That was after that was when I decided I'm not going to introduce other teachers anymore. I can't, because my experience is not their experience. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to start teaching on my own, and I need some kind of way to make the declaration that, yes, I am pardon the expression, but yes, I am enlightened. Yes, I am worthy of being a teacher. Yes, I am clear. Yes, I know the truth. And so I sat down to write that, and I thought, it's got to be the clearest thing you ever wrote. And you got to test every sentence to make sure that this is your experience, not your thinking. And I got through with it, and it was just, and it was just an explosion. Tens of thousands of people read that thing in very short order. So that there was a ready audience for the Book of Undoing.
Well, this should definitely go online.
Let's,
Okay.
I think that's a real good idea. I'll tell the recorders and the producers of that they need to cut the, y'all don't mind?
No,
Okay,
I think it really should.
thanks. Okay. I will then. I hadn't thought about that, but that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So Pamela, come back in, please. I'm always excited.
Well, as you were talking about, lower the hand here,
Thank you.
about, yeah, that idea of awakeness and being able then to see through everybody's eyes because we're all one thing. Again, that analogy of watching the play through that brain comes to mind, but also there do seem to be some people who on occasion are apparently seeing through somebody else's eyes, or what they call clairvoyance, what they call ESP. So it's just extraordinarily rare and completely unnecessary.
And I throw this under the title. It has no reflection on one way or the other on this teaching, because anything can happen in the dream.
Yeah.
And that does happen in the dream. I agree.
Yeah.
When talking to your dead grandmother or whatever, I mean, it's just that anything can happen in the dream, but it is happening in a dream.
Yeah.
And it doesn't present an obstacle to what we're talking about here. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I think there's, again, just from all the years of reading this, that, and everything that, well, especially, way back, Maharishi Yogi.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are supposed to be floating by now.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, if you're not levitating, what's wrong with you?
That's right. Right. That's right.
So
And a bunch of people bouncing on their knees and claiming levitation. Yeah.
As kids, we used to do that for fun. We never thought it was magic.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Overcoming the bounds of earth.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of misinformation about what it is that we're looking for.
There's so much.
And so, but on the other hand, the interesting flip of that is that apparently with quantum physics, it doesn't deny that it's possible either. Anything's possible, as you said.
That's exactly right. It's open possibilities. It's open for possibilities.
And what we label synchronicity, or the times when all of a sudden you came across information that you really needed for your life in this world as a Pam or a Fred or whatever. Again, it's all one thing. So, of course, that's possible.
How does a young redneck boy about 10 years old smoking cigarettes under a bridge, right, to hiding from everybody, how does it go from that to this? You can't get there, but it happens, right? It just doesn't make any sense, but it happens. How can a bum from the park end up here? It just, these things, how can, the way that we ran around as kids, just the sheer fact that we didn't die is miraculous. Right?
Yeah. My parents would be hauled off for gross child neglect days.
Yeah. Right.
I never wore a helmet when I rode a bike.
Right. Yeah, my parents would.
we were in.
Yeah.
I was going to say we were in the front seat of the car with no seat belts, all of that. Now, that's not to say I'm not happy to have all of these.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people did die as a result. But,
yes. until and we used to say there was an accident, but thank God he was thrown free of the car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he became an 80-mile projective, 80-mile
Right.
projectile as he hit the tree. That's great.
Yeah. Which if he happened to be wearing a football helmet, maybe he would have survived. But,
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. So,
These
um,
it just unfurls the way it does, you know. It
mhm.
just unrolls. All of this just unrolls the way that it does, and it truly is miraculous that and I've been in so many dire straits so many times where there's no way out of this. Oh my God, I'm for sure going down now. And I didn't, you know, or I did, and it turned out that it wasn't as bad as I thought, right? That, and matter of fact, that a lot of times that direction ended up being the right thing.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that I call the ugly gift, right?
Mhm.
And this disease of mine, it's an ugly gift in a spiritual way because it's forced a deeper surrender here than I ever imagined, right? Just there's no explanation, there's no reason, there's no point to in it. It's just this isn't there. Here it is, and it takes the mind takes a real 180, and but I don't fight it except for when I do.
Mhm.
Sometimes it will get the best of me.
Yeah.
I don't want to paint myself out to be too holy. Like the guy in AA used to tell me, there's only 6 inches between a halo and a noose.
Never heard that one.
It's very smart guy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. This is, yeah, it wasn't, it's been great today.
Thank you all for being right here and being so open and for just taking it and running with it. Let's take the last couple of minutes and just take and close out the way we started, eh? I love you all so much. Thank you so much for being here today. See everybody soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.